I carried the red gift bag carefully as I walked through the snow toward my daughter Clara's house. The cold air bit my hands, but my heart felt warm. I had spent hours picking the gifts, small things I knew she loved when she was younger. I wanted this Christmas to bring us close again. It had been too long since I heard her laugh the way she used to. I reached her gate and stopped for a moment. Snowflakes landed on my coat, melting into tiny drops. I brushed them off and whispered, "This is the right thing to do." I truly believed it. I wanted to surprise her, to show her that no matter how long we stayed apart, I still cared. With a deep breath, I walked up the steps and knocked softly on the door. For a moment, nothing happened. Then I heard quick footsteps inside. My chest warmed. She must be running to open the door, I thought. But when the door opened, Clara didn't smile. She froze. Her eyes widened at the sight of me. She wasn't happy. She wasn't excited. She looked scared. "Dad, what are you doing here?" she asked in a shaky voice. I blinked, confused. "I came to surprise you," I said gently. "Merry Christmas, sweetheart." I brought gifts. Her eyes darted behind me, then toward the stairs inside the house, as if she needed to check something. Her shoulders stiffened. She stepped only halfway into the doorway, blocking my view. "Dad, you shouldn't have come." Her words cut deeper than the winter cold. Before I could ask why, a strong voice came from behind her. "What is this?" Brent, her husband, walked up beside her. His face was tight, his eyes sharp. He glared at me like I had invaded his home. "I just came to visit," I said calmly. "I wanted to see Clara today." "You're not invited," he snapped. The words hit me harder than I expected. I looked at my daughter, hoping she would speak up, but Clara lowered her eyes, like a child waiting to be punished. She didn't meet my gaze. "Brent," she whispered, "please." But her whisper wasn't for him. It was for me, a quiet plea for me to leave quickly. Brent stepped forward and blocked the doorway completely. "You weren't asked to come today," he said. "We don't need surprise visits. Turn around and go." I felt the sting of humiliation in my chest, but I refused to show anger. "I didn't mean any harm," I told them softly. "I just wanted to celebrate with my daughter." Brent didn't care. He reached for the door. "Dad, please go," Clara said, her voice breaking slightly. That was the moment everything inside me sank. I nodded once. "All right," I said simply. "Merry Christmas." Brent shut the door firmly. The sound echoed through the street. I stood there for a few seconds, holding the gift bag tightly, trying to understand what just happened. Then I turned and walked away through the snow, my footsteps slow and heavy. I did not know that inside that house, only 1 hour later, their Christmas celebration would fall apart in a way none of them expected. When I left Clara's house that morning, the cold didn't bother me as much as the emptiness in my chest. As I walked through the quiet street, my mind drifted back to the months before Christmas, the months when everything between Clara and me slowly changed without warning. It didn't happen in one day. It was small at first, almost invisible. After she married Brent, she called less. She used to call every night, even for small things like asking me how to fix a loose chair or telling me what she cooked for dinner. After the wedding, those calls became shorter. Then they became rare. Then they stopped. I tried not to worry. I told myself, she's just busy. She has her own life now. That is what fathers are supposed to say, right? Give space. Trust your child. Believe everything is fine. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. I remember one afternoon when I visited without warning. Nothing serious, just a normal visit. When Clara opened the door that day, she smiled. but it wasn't her real smile. It looked forced. Her hands were shaking. I tried to hug her, but she stepped back quickly, like she didn't want to be touched. When I asked if everything was okay, she said she was tired. Then I noticed something else. A faint mark on her wrist. Not big, not dark, but it wasn't there before. "Clara," I asked softly, "what happened to your hand?" She hid her wrist behind her sweater and laughed nervously. "Oh, that? I burned myself while cooking. It's nothing." I wanted to believe her. I truly did. But her eyes didn't match her smile. They held something I didn't understand, then fear. Brent came to the door shortly after and acted friendly. Too friendly. His words were warm, but his eyes were cold. He stood close to Clara, and she stiffened like her body was trained to react. When I left that day, I couldn't shake off the uneasy feeling. I felt like someone had taken my daughter and put another person in her place. Then, weeks later, she started saying she was busy whenever I asked to visit. Busy, busy, always busy. I told myself she was building a new family. I told myself not to be selfish. But inside, I felt her slipping away like sand through my fingers. The worst moment happened 2 months before Christmas. It was nighttime, raining hard, when Clara called me. Her voice was low, almost a whisper. "Dad, are you awake?" I sat up immediately. "Of course. What's wrong?" But before she answered, Brent's voice shouted something in the background. The phone went silent. Then she quickly said, "I'm fine. Sorry. Wrong number." She ended the call. My heart dropped. I wanted to go to her house that night, but I hesitated. I didn't want to cause trouble. I didn't want to make things worse for her. That hesitation, my silence, has haunted me ever since. So when Christmas came, I thought maybe a surprise visit would fix everything. I thought she would open the door with joy. I thought she would run into my arms like she used to as a child. But instead, she looked at me like I brought danger to her doorstep. And when Brent slammed the door today, I finally understood. Something happened in that house long before Christmas morning, something Clara never told me, something I could no longer ignore. I didn't know what was happening inside Clara's house before I arrived that morning. But later, as I pieced things together, I understood why she looked the way she did when she opened the door. Her fear wasn't new. It had been growing long before I knocked. That morning, while I was walking through the snow with my gift bag, Clara was already awake inside the house. She told me later that she hadn't slept well. She had been up since dawn, moving quietly around the living room, trying to decorate the tree before Brent woke up. She wanted everything to be perfect, every light straight, every ornament shining, every ribbon tied neatly. She said she didn't decorate because she enjoyed it. She did it because Brent expected it. And if even one mistake showed, he would get upset. She placed a small yellow envelope inside her sweater pocket. She kept touching it over and over, checking if it was still there. She never told Brent about it. When Brent came downstairs, he walked around the living room like a supervisor checking for errors. Clara stood still, hands folded, waiting for his reaction. He touched the tablecloth and frowned. He checked the food she prepared and asked why it wasn't hotter. He pointed at one ornament on the tree and said it was hanging too low. Small things, but enough to make Clara swallow her voice and whisper, "I'll fix it." She told me she wanted peace that morning. She wanted at least one Christmas without shouting. But peace was something she hadn't had in that house for a long time. She moved from place to place, adjusting things, checking the oven, wiping the table. Every few minutes, Brent's voice would rise, sometimes annoyed, sometimes cold, sometimes disappointed. Clara said she felt like she was walking on thin ice that could break at any moment. There was a moment, she said, when she stood by the window and looked outside. The snow was falling gently, and for a brief second she allowed herself to breathe. She thought she could get through the day if she just stayed careful. Then she heard a knock at the door. She froze. Brent looked up sharply. "Who's that?" he asked. I don't know," she answered. He walked toward the door, but she quickly stepped in front of him. "Let me check," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. Her heart was pounding. Something told her she should hide the envelope in her pocket before she opened the door. She slipped her hand inside her sweater and pressed the envelope flat against her side. When she opened the door and saw me standing outside with a smile and a red gift bag, everything inside her collapsed. Not because she didn't want me there, but because she knew how Brent would react. She tried to talk, tried to think of something to say that would calm the storm she knew was coming. But Brent was already behind her, his voice already rising. "Why is he here?" Clara told me she wanted to step outside and hug me. She wanted to tell me everything. She wanted to ask for help. She even reached for my sleeve slightly, but Brent's hand tightened on her shoulder. So she whispered the words she never wanted to say. "Dad, please go." After Brent slammed the door, Clara didn't return to the living room right away. She stood in the hallway for a long time, holding the envelope in her pocket with shaking hands, wishing she had done things differently. She told me something else too, something I didn't know when I was walking away through the snow. Brent blamed her for me showing up that morning, and because of that, their Christmas celebration ended much earlier than planned. After Brent slammed the door in my face, I walked for a long time without knowing where I was going. My feet took me down the quiet street, past glowing decorations and warm houses filled with families. I held the red gift bag close to my chest, not because of the cold, but because I didn't know what else to do with my hands. I found myself inside a small cafe, a few blocks away. The place was warm and smelled like cinnamon. People were laughing, drinking hot chocolate, exchanging gifts. I sat at a table near the window and tried to blend in, even though I felt like I was breaking apart inside. I kept asking myself the same questions. Why did Clara look so scared? Why didn't she stop him? Why did she whisper for me to go? I told myself not to overthink, but my heart didn't believe the lies I tried to tell it. After a few minutes, I noticed someone standing outside the cafe window. An older woman, wrapped in a thick coat, staring at me with concern. It took me a moment to recognize her, Mrs. Turner, the neighbor who lived next door to Clara. She pushed open the cafe door and walked inside with slow steps. She was holding a small paper bag, probably carrying something she baked. She came straight to my table. "Harold?" she asked gently. "Are you all right?" I forced a smile. "I'm fine," I said, "just getting some air." She sat down across from me without asking. "I saw what happened," she whispered. My heart tightened. "You saw?" She nodded. "I was about to bring Clara a little fruitcake when I heard Brent shouting. Then I saw the door slam." She looked at the gift bag in my hand. "I knew you were trying to do something kind." I lowered my eyes. "I didn't mean to cause trouble." Mrs. Turner shook her head. "You didn't cause anything. That house, it hasn't been right for a long time." My breath paused. "What do you mean?" She looked around, making sure no one was listening. Her voice dropped even lower. "I hear things, Harold. Walls are thin. Sometimes I hear arguments late at night. Sometimes I hear Clara crying. Sometimes I see her in the yard with red eyes, pretending she was gardening. And she always jumps when Brent calls her name." A chill moved through me, not from the cold outside, but from the truth I had ignored. Mrs. Turner leaned forward. "Please don't think she pushed you away today. I've seen the way she looks when she talks about you. She's scared, not angry. I swallowed hard. What is she scared of? Mrs. Turner didn't answer directly. She opened her paper bag and placed a folded note on the table. This fell from Clara's hand last week when she walked past my gate, she said quietly. She didn't notice. I stared at the folded paper. My fingers trembled as I picked it up. It wasn't just any paper. It was the same yellow color as the envelope Clara kept touching in her sweater pocket that morning. I opened it slowly, and the moment I saw the handwriting inside, my vision blurred for a second. Mrs. Turner reached across the table and touched my arm gently. "Harold," she said, "I think your daughter has been trying to tell you something for a long time." I looked down at the note again, the words shaking in my hand. I stared at the yellow note in my hand, the cafe noise fading into nothing. My fingers felt heavy, like the paper carried more weight than my whole body. The handwriting was small, rushed, almost shaky, but it was Clara's. I knew her handwriting anywhere. There were only 6 words on the note. "Dad, please don't stop trying." I read it again, and again. Each time, the meaning dug deeper into my chest. She had been reaching out, not loudly, not openly, but quietly, in the only way she could. Mrs. Turner spoke softly. I think she wanted help, but she was too frightened to ask directly. I folded the note carefully and slid it into my pocket. My heart felt heavy, but suddenly steadier. I stood up from the table. "Thank you," I said. "You may have saved my daughter more than you know." Mrs. Turner nodded and squeezed my hand. "Go to her, Harold. She needs someone who won't give up." I left the cafe and walked back toward Clara's neighborhood. The snow had stopped, but the sky was still gray, as if it was holding its breath. My feet sank into the soft white ground as I moved, but I didn't slow down. When I reached their street, I didn't go to the door. I stood across from their house and watched quietly. A few minutes later, I saw Clara step outside to throw something into the bin. She moved slowly, holding her sweater close around her, like she was hiding from the cold or something else. She didn't see me at first. Her head was down, her steps small, like she was scared to make noise even on her own porch. But when she looked up and saw me standing there, her body froze. Her eyes filled with tears so quickly it hurt to look at her. I walked closer, but I didn't rush. I didn't want to frighten her. When I reached the sidewalk in front of her house, she whispered, "Dad, you came back?" Her voice was soft, but not the same frightened voice she used inside the house. It sounded relieved. "I'm here," I said gently, "and I'm not going anywhere this time." Her chin trembled. She looked behind her to check if Brent was watching, then stepped closer to me. "Dad," she whispered shakily, "I didn't want you to leave. I had to say it. I didn't want him to get angry." I nodded. "I know, Clara." She blinked in surprise. "You do?" I pulled the yellow note from my pocket and placed it in her hand. The moment she saw it, she gasped and pressed her other hand to her mouth. Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I tried to tell you," she whispered. "I didn't know how." "You don't have to hide any more," I said quietly. "Not from me." Before she could respond, the front door opened. Brent stepped out, his eyes sharp, his jaw tight. Clara flinched, but I didn't move. This time, I didn't walk away. I stood tall, looked him straight in the eyes, and spoke with the calmest voice I had. "This Christmas," I said, "I came to see my daughter, and I will not be turned away again." Clara moved closer to me, closer than she had in months. For the first time, she didn't hide behind fear. She stood beside me, her hand touching my sleeve, holding on. And that was the moment everything finally changed. I stood in the center of the dim warehouse, the final pieces of the truth settling into place like a storm, finally breaking. My daughter stepped toward me, tears shining as she clutched the evidence that would end Marcus's twisted scheme forever. "You saved me, Dad," she whispered. Sirens exploded outside as officers swarmed in, dragging Marcus away. For the first time in months, I felt the weight on my chest lift. I held my daughter, knowing we had survived the impossible. But somewhere in the dark, another secret waited. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more interesting revenge stories.